Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about my biggest regret when it comes to buying watches and the one watch that I really regret buying. And I'm going to break it down into why did I buy the watch, and then, why do I regret that purchase? Now, a little bit of a public service announcement. I finally got the mic hooked up. I know that the room isn't necessarily ideal. I still need to kind of set up a couple more things with the office and studio, but hopefully you guys get to benefit from a little bit better of audio quality. But anyways, before I forget, on the wrist, I do have my vintage Omega Seamaster from the late 1970s. It's a very special watch to me and holds a lot of sentimental value. But anyways, if you do like the content, make sure to drop a like down below, subscribe to see more awesome stuff in the future. But with that out of the way, let's just roll the intro and then get into the content. Okay, so now we're going to talk about what watch is it that I regret purchasing. And the watch itself is not, and I want to make this as a disclaimer, it's not a bad watch. It's just not a watch that I would buy or would ever buy again, if that makes sense. And they actually make good watches. So it's a Citizen titanium model. It's a EcoDrive chronograph, and it's from the Chandler line. Nice watch, just not a watch for me. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why I bought it, and then I'm going to talk about why I regret buying it. Now, why did I even buy this watch? It kind of comes down to, and I'm going to try and make this story as brief as possible. It's a little bit sensitive topic for me, but bear with me. So at the end of the very first year that I was, a full-time teacher, I was on contract. It came to an end, and there was a lot of things that were up in the air. Employment for next year was kind of out the window, and I had poured my heart and soul into the school only to basically, and I mean, if any of you guys are a teacher and you know how the unions work, if you're not a full-time, or not a full-time, if you're not a permanent contract, you can potentially get bounced out of the school. But it was a very hard, trying environment. And to not be able to come back and not be able to continue the work that I had started working on was really, really, really disheartening. And also being in a environment where your employers don't necessarily believe in your abilities to complete your job can really, really affect your psyche and how you perform at the job. Now, obviously, I mean, I thought I did a good enough job. That's my opinion, but I digress. So I was not in a very good mindset, and I thought to myself, I was actually a very impulse buy. I bought this watch solely for the fact, as kind of a reward to myself for making it through the year and putting up with what I did. And it was not something that I really recommend anybody do, is make an impulse decision. But I bought it with that kind of intent in mind, and I knew nothing about watches. Really, I had one watch before, or a couple, I guess, but I almost thought it because it was a Citizen watch, and my dad had wore a Citizen watch almost exclusively from the time I was a little kid all the way into my young adult life, and I thought that was, a decent higher-end brand that was, respectable, and everybody kind of noticed. Kind of sidetrack on that. No one really notices it. If you're expecting a watch to get you compliments, it probably will not happen. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but it's not really going to get you the desired result. All those ads that you see, all those marketing ads that it's like, oh, people give me so many compliments. It's not really going to happen. Watch enthusiasts might compliment you on your watch. Other watch people, but I mean, when I'm teaching, maybe some of the kids are like, oh, it's a cool watch. But realistically, it's not. And Citizen isn't even a luxury manufacturer. So I don't even know what the heck I was doing. It was just a lot of I was so misinformed, and I knew nothing. And I think that's probably one of the big reasons why I regret buying it. But that was the reason why I bought it. And it was and this is kind of where I want to address a little bit of the mental health surrounding that. When you are in a very depressive state, and you want to pretend that you are okay, sometimes you buy things to pretend that you are okay. And this was a purchase to pretend that I was okay. When I really wasn't. When I was basically, realistically, as soon as the last kids ran out the door at the very last day of school, I basically locked myself in the classroom that wasn't even going to be mine next year, and I basically cried. And it was very kind of, I remember the school year ending. I remember everything kind of going at the end of it, and I was just like, I'm done. I don't want to teach anymore. I don't want to do anything anymore. I hate everything, and I just want to crawl under a rock and go into a cave and just nobody see me anymore. That's how I felt going into the summer vacation. And it took a lot for me to kind of get back on my feet. And I think that, you know, when I bought this, I was just like, I want people to think that I'm still doing okay on the outside. And I think that that was a big mistake. And so that kind of trails me into the second part, is that, one, I knew nothing about watches. I should have never bought a watch that was 44 millimeters. I mean, mind you, this is coming from the guy who loves an Oris Aquas, which is 43 and a half. But that one, I guess I didn't know anything about, you know, lug to lug. I didn't know anything about that. The salesperson didn't even properly and adequately tell me what the watch did. They were like, oh, it's, you know, a sapphire crystal, it's a, you know, titanium bracelet and case, so it's super light and scratch resistant, which all is sort of true. But they didn't tell me, you know, that it was a chronograph. They didn't tell me anything. And I mean, a lot of these just very entry-level watches in these ADs, they don't really tell you about it. They sell you it based upon it looks cool. And I mean, yes, most people will sell you on the watch based upon it looking cool. They don't really care too much. But for me, I wish I had known, and I wish I'd been educated, because I don't think I would have ever bought that watch. Not that it's a bad watch. It's just not a watch that I really wear, and I don't really wear it at all. And I guess part of me wonders why I still have it in my collection. Maybe I look back, and each time I look back, I regret it. And then I also it kind of pushes me through, and I'm like a little bit resilient in how I treat things now because of, you know, what happened. But overall, I wouldn't like, and I stress again, it's not that it's a bad watch. It's just something that I just don't find myself enjoying. And realistically, well, funny fact. So when they went to size the bracelet in the store, the pins fell out right away. Like an hour later, after I got in my car, I was walking around with my buddy. Pins fell out an hour later, and then I had to go back. Pins fell out again because the person couldn't size the bracelet worth squat. So like, it's just these people working at some of these like ADs for watches. It's just, and this was like they sold entry level brands. You wouldn't get this if you went to like, you know, a higher end AD. You just wouldn't get this kind of stuff or shenanigans, it's really disappointing to see that. But yeah, and like the other thing, they didn't give me my warranty card, and they didn't even give me an instruction manual. I knew nothing. So it's like the entire sales process, looking back, I'm just like, that was a crap sales process. And the biggest thing was they sold to me, they're like, oh, you get 30% off. It's a great deal. A week later, I walked into a different AD and I was just looking at watches. They had the exact same watch, 40% off. And I was just like, I felt like ripped off in that sense. So it's just dumb. And then not even like 2 weeks later, I was already on the hunt for something else. That being the watch that I eventually bought was this Omega Seamaster, which was partial gift. But anyways, maybe I'll tell you about, you know, the good that came out of that story and kind of what got me into watches, because that watch really kind of spurred a lot of things, and it spurred my journey into watches. But anyways, I'll leave that for another day. But really, I just hopefully that you kind of learn something maybe about, like, you know, not trying to pretend that you're okay, and learn from my mistake of, you know, just don't buy dumb stuff when you're not doing okay. And always, you know, check to make sure something fits properly and that you like the look of it and that you understand what it does before you buy it. But anyways, I'm going to leave it off there. So take care. You guys have a fantastic day. I'll see you later.